What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 4, Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. So at the quarterback position, I like Jordan Love from the Green Bay Packers playing the Detroit Lions, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing quarterbacks. Now, Jordan Love has averaged 22.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.7 rush attempts per game, and he got 9 rush attempts last game, so this guy can run the ball, and he's going to be about 56% owned, projected at 17.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's 9,800 DraftKings salary. So he is, you're going to save about $600 coming down off of Jared Goff playing Jordan Love. Now Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in this game. They have the Packers trailing by 1.5. So both of these matchups about the same. And game script could go either way. This one being what Vegas thinks is going to be a close game. And both these guys are going to be about 56% owned on the dot. So looks like it's a coin flip at quarterback, both around the same price as well. Now Jordan Love has scored 25, 20, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And he got 9, 2, and 3 rush attempts in those games. Whereas Jared Goff has scored 19, 27, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And he got 5, 0, and 5 rush attempts in those games. So, coin flip decision here, guys. Just the way you want to build your lineup, it's up to you. So, I like both these quarterbacks, but I am leaning towards Jordan Love here versus the Detroit Lions. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So, it looks like we're going to get Aaron Jones back from the Green Bay Packers, playing the Detroit Lions, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense, and they got a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing running backs. So Aaron Jones has been out for the past couple of weeks. He did score 27 fantasy points in his first week off of 9 rush attempts and 4 pass targets. Now he's going to be about 36% owned. He's projected at 13.3 fantasy points here tonight, but just remember, Aaron Jones, although he is a risk to play here coming off of injury, if he's a full go, he's definitely got the most upside on the slate. And you also got to consider David Montgomery for the Detroit Lions was also limited in practice, so both Aaron Jones and David Montgomery, in terms of health, they are both in a similar spots, and Aaron Jones certainly has monster upside, so I like Aaron Jones here versus the Detroit Lions. Now, David Montgomery, I like him quite a bit as well for the Detroit Lions playing the Green Bay Packers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing running backs, so good matchup for David Montgomery here, who's averaged 13.4 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 18.5 rush attempts per game, but he's not even averaging 1 pass target per game, so if they do fall behind in this game, David Montgomery, there's some risk where the game script, he won't get the carries. Just keep that in mind. But he's going to be about 45% owned. I won't say only because that looks like the highest ownership on the slate for running backs. So I didn't mean to say that. So he's going to be about 45% owned, and he's projected at 11.2 fantasy points here tonight. Now he's only 6,800 DraftKings salary, and if you compare that to Aaron Jones at 10,800, you're saving 4,000 big ones going with David Montgomery. Although there are scenarios you could play both these backs. So David Montgomery, he scored no fantasy points last week. He was out, but scored 13 and 13 fantasy points the weeks before that, off of 16 and 21 rush attempts in those games, and only one pass target there. So I like David Montgomery here versus the Green Bay Packers.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, now another running back that I like on the slate, if you look at the backup running backs here, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs, he got the carries last week when David Montgomery was out. So he got 17 rush attempts and 2 pass targets. If David Montgomery is not going to be a full go here, you just got to keep an eye on the injury news all the way up until game time on Aaron Jones and David Montgomery. So if one of those backs is out, or if they say they're going to be limited in carries, just keep an eye on that. If that's going to be the case, then that opens up the play for these backup running backs now. You could make an argument. You could play these guys probably either way just because of the uncertainty. But Jahmyr Gibbs, he's 9,600 DraftKings salary. So if David Montgomery is going to be the guy for 6,800, you're going to want to go with him. Now, if Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the guy with David Montgomery as the backup, then you could probably go with Gibbs here. But I'm gonna stay away from Gibbs. I just think he had a lot of opportunity last week with David Montgomery out. I think he might be overpriced here. I think there's a good chance that those rush attempts pull back revert back to the mean of around 10 rush attempts this game. At 9,600 DraftKings salary, he needs to make an awful lot happen if that's going to be the case. So either way, just keep an eye on the injury news, guys. So either way, though, no matter what, even if Aaron Jones does play this game, I like A.J. Dillon from the Green Bay Packers and the backup to Aaron Jones, just because even if Aaron Jones does play like in week 1, A.J. Dillon got 13 rush attempts and 3 pass targets. So he was still quite involved in the game plan. And of course, he's gotten the carries while Aaron Jones has been sidelined the past couple of weeks. So take a look at A.J. Dillon now. You just have to look at the rush attempts that he's getting. He has not produced many fantasy points, only averaging 5.4 fantasy points per game on the season. But he's getting an average of 13 rush attempts per game and 1.3 pass targets per game. Going to be about 25% owned. Now he's 7,000 DraftKings salary, projected at 7.7 fantasy points here tonight. And like I said, he only scored 3, 7, and 6 fantasy points in those last 3 games. So not a lot of fireworks from A.J. Dillon yet, but his salary is low enough here where you could plug him into your lineup. He could get 15 touches here in this game, could make his way into the end zone and end up being the play. So I like A.J. Dillon here versus the Detroit Lions. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So you got the stud on the slate, Amon-Ra St. Brown, or Amon-Ra Street Brown from the Detroit Lions playing the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Green Bay Packers have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, as you know, but they do have a good defense defending opposing wide receivers. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'll say Saint, I'll say Street. When I see ST dot, for some reason, I'm thinking Saint. I don't know why. Ramon-Ra Street Brown, averaging 20 fantasy points per game on the season. And he's getting an average of 9 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 88% of the snaps. Gonna be about 60% owned. Projected at 16.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's 11,600 DraftKings salary. Amon-Ra Street Brown has scored 23, 18, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 12, 7, and 9 pass targets, and he got a rush attempt last week as well. Not a fantastic matchup here, but looks like he clearly has the most upside on the slate at the wide receiver position. So I like Amon-Ra St. Brown here versus the Green Bay Packers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, now you got to keep your eye on this Green Bay wide receiver core with Christian Watson possibly making his, looks like season debut here for the Green Bay Packers. Now, he is 8,200 DraftKings salary. He's going to be about 21% owned if he does play and he's a full go. So keep that in mind here, guys. He is absolutely going to eat into the targets of Romeo Doubs and Jayden Reed, who have been enjoying 12 and 7 pass targets last week, respectively, to those 2 guys. So quite a few pass targets that have been directed at Romeo Doubs and Jayden Reed will be redirected to Christian Watson if he enters the lineup in a full capacity here tonight. So keep an eye on that. If he does, could always go with Christian Watson here. He's 8,200 DraftKings salary. You can see what he's got, in his season debut. Or you could go ahead and roll the dice with Romeo Doubs, but he's sitting at 8,800, and sure, he's gotten the targets throughout the season, averaging 14 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.7 pass targets per game. Got 12 pass targets last game. Going to be about 18% owned. So you can see his projected ownership is actually a little bit lower than Christian Watson. I think people are anticipating that drop in targets per game for Doubs, and he's at the price tag where he's priced at getting around 6, 7, 8 targets or more. Will that happen? We'll see. But if you want to save some salary at the wide receiver position in a guy who's reasonably priced for the amount of targets that he's been receiving, and I don't see that changing too much here tonight, I like Jayden Reed from the Green Bay Packers playing the Detroit Lions, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing wide receivers. Now, Jayden Reed has averaged 11.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.7 pass targets per game. So he's going to be about 26% owned. And the reason there is he's projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight, but he's only 5,600 DraftKings salary. So with the return of Christian Watson, you're not sure how it's going to affect the pass targets to the other wide receivers. You can reduce your risk here with Jayden Reed at only 5,600 DraftKings salary. I do expect him to get a handful of targets, even with Christian Watson back in the lineup. So I like Jayden Reed here versus the Detroit Lions. Now for the Detroit Lions, if you're not going to pony up for Amon-Ra Street Brown,
at 11,600 DraftKings salary, or if you want to stack on a Detroit wide receiver, take a look at Josh Reynolds from the Detroit Lions. And Josh Reynolds, he's averaging 11.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.3 pass targets per game. Now, it looks like he got injured last game. He didn't play last game. But before that, he scored 24 and 12 fantasy points off of 6 and 7 pass targets. So if he's back in full capacity here tonight, it looks like he's going to be. Doesn't even have a questionable tag. So Josh Reynolds at only 6,200 DraftKings salary, I think is in a good spot here. You can see Khalif Raymond did get 6 pass targets last week, but that's because Josh Reynolds was not on the field. And Khalif Raymond at 5,200. I prefer Josh Reynolds at 6,200. So I like Josh Reynolds here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, so moving on to the tight end position, I like Sam Laporta from the Detroit Lions playing the Green Bay Packers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing tight ends. Sam Laporta has averaged 14.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.3 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 31% owned on the field for 80% of the snaps, projected at 10.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's 8,000 DraftKings salary. So Sam Laporta has scored 22, 11, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 11, 6, and 5 pass targets. So 11 pass targets last game, 22 fantasy points. I like his price tag. So I like Sam Laporta here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, another tight end that I like is Luke Musgrave from the Green Bay Packers playing the Detroit Lions, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So a fantastic matchup here for Luke Musgrave, who's averaging 7.8 fantasy points per game on the season, averaging 5 pass targets per game, on the field for 83% of the snaps, projected at going to be about 24% owned, projected at 7.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's 6,400 DraftKings salary. Now Luke Musgrave has scored 11, 5, and 8 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 8, 3, and 4 pass targets. So both of these tight ends quite involved last week with some decent production. I think both of them are decent plays here tonight, and Luke Musgrave with a great matchup. So I like Luke Musgrave here versus the Detroit Lions.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.